This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
Hi, thank you so much for being a part of Raising Me. I'm Adrienne Stein, and this is where we take everyday challenges that we face as parents right to the experts for advice, and often pause for some self-reflection along the way as we're all trying to be better people and ultimately better parents. Well, this episode today does both of those things because we're talking about PACE, which is a well-known strategy that stands for playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. And we'll learn how those four things can not only dramatically improve your relationship with your child or your children, but also the one with yourself. Dr. Dan Hughes is with us, and it's a big deal because he is the one who developed this strategy. It was specifically designed for children who've experienced trauma, and it's been used all over the world. But as you'll see from our conversation, the key pieces of PACE can help all of us with nearly any important relationship in our lives, including the one we have with ourselves. Dan, thank you so much for being a part of the conversation. We're so glad to have you with us. Let's just jump right in because I'm very curious as to what inspired you to develop PACE. And tell us what it is.
It's a way of engagement with any person, really. It was developed for children who don't trust their parents or their teachers or caregivers because it generates safety, first and foremost, that I am with you, I'm not judging you, I'm getting to know you, I'm interested in you as a person. I'm not just interested in your behavior or changing your behavior. I'm interested in getting to know you. And from there, if we have any concerns about behavior, we'll have a context in which we could address them.
And, you alluded to, this is really just great advice for any important relationship. I thought about it too in work relationships or, any number of relationships, but PACE stands for playfulness, acceptance, curiosity, and empathy. So let's just start at the beginning and talk about playfulness. Why is playfulness such an important part of communication?
Well, it conveys a sense of I'm relaxed with you, I'm comfortable with you, I am safe with you, you can be safe with me, I enjoy you, I delight in you. It has that confidence about the relationship, about a reason for being together. Imagine being with a baby for any amount of time without being playful. When I developed PACE, I developed it thinking, well, what is the best way to engage kids who don't trust, who don't quite know how to engage or want to engage? I thought, well, how do healthy parents engage their babies? In general, with babies, we're playful, we're accepting, we're curious, and we have empathy for their distress. So playfulness then was a natural. It just called for being a part of it, regardless of the situation. That doesn't mean we're telling jokes around trauma, obviously. It means that we are having this confidence, this being with you in a light way that is confident that we can get through this together. We can understand this. We can work it through.
Could you give us a bit of an example of what that could look like?
Well, I can give you an example like a child that says, is angry with me because I bring up something he doesn't want to talk about. And he says, you stupid head, leave me alone. And I said, hold on there. How do you know my head is stupid? Now, if you said my hand is stupid, I could get that, because especially my left hand, it's not very bright at all. It doesn't do what I want it to do. But my head, I think it's fairly bright. Why do you say it's stupid? That is playful. It's light. It's going with the child in what he's saying to push you away and enjoying him. He's pushing me away by trying to get me angry with him. And I'm playful, say, what do you mean? My head is not stupid, I don't think. What makes you think it is? And he sees I'm not in any way angry with him. He sees I'm actually interested in why he would say that. And he also knows it is a bit playful. And I'll have a slight smile on my face. So often the kid looks at me and he's not quite sure. He expects anger. Kids who are troubled often are most comfortable when the adults around them are angry with them, which is so sad, but they are.
Mhm.
That's their comfort zone. That's what they're good at, making people angry with them. So he says stupid head, and I'm not angry. And he's a bit puzzled by that. And then he tries to engage me, but he doesn't quite know how to do it because it doesn't involve this power struggle and calling each other names or hurting each other and psychologically or verbally or whatever, something like that. So playfulness is a safe way of being with somebody that invites the other person into a relationship that's non-threatening.
I bet it would kind of throw off a kid a little bit if they, to your point that they are used to a more combative scenario, and you come right back with something that feels light and
Mhm.
fun and sweet, really.
No, it is accepting the child and it's saying, I'm interested in you. Now, you
Yeah.
experience me as a stupid head. Now, I'm curious about that. I accept that's your experience. I don't accept that I am a stupid head, but I accept that's your experience. And I have empathy for you. So I'll say, well, I'm a therapist, and I think I'm seeing you because your teacher was concerned that you seem kind of unhappy. Are you kind of disappointed that you think your therapist is a stupid head? You were probably hoping I was a little more clever so I could be of help to you so you won't be so unhappy.
I will admit, I feel like I've been called a stupid head by my own kids or something to that effect. Maybe not necessarily in those terms, but, instead of saying, don't talk to me like that, go to your room, is it somewhat taking a deep breath and turning it like having a softer reaction
Correct.
to it? Yeah.
It's not a reaction, it's a response.
Hmm.
It's trying to get into the child's experience. Now, if he uses words that I really disapprove of, I can say, whoa, you're angry with me. Could you find other ways to say it? Could you say, Dad, I'm angry with you? How about try it? Let's say it. We'll say it together. Dad, I'm angry with you.
Yeah.
How about that? Because stupid head it might make me kind of defensive and kind of angry. And yeah, I wouldn't want that.
And again, to use the word stupid head, I see that as really younger kids.
Yeah,
Teenagers are coming at you at probably a much much different way.
yeah,
So what could
right.
it look like with a teenager who might be lashing out at a parent?
I don't know. I don't want to swear.
It's a safe space.
Okay.
Yeah.
A teenager says, you effing asshole, for
Right.
example.
Yeah.
And I would say something like, whoa, you got a lot of anger toward me. I'm a bit puzzled because you hardly know me at all.
Mm,
What makes you already think I'm a fucking asshole when in fact we just met? Is that
mm.
for any adult, any person in authority? Or are you thinking, are you anticipating I'm going to say something rude to you or mean to you or boss you around? What makes you call me that? So I'll be interested in calling me that. And I'll probably say, you haven't met me. How can you say that already? You're a teenager, and some teenagers are not the best people to hang around with. And I'm not judging you because you're a teenager. So why judge me because I'm an old man?
Fair enough, right?
Yeah, right,
The second part of PACE is acceptance.
right.
What exactly do you mean by that?
Well, I accept the child's inner life, which
Mhm.
means their feelings, their thoughts, their wishes, their hopes, their perceptions, their values. That's their inner life. I'm not going to judge that. I will only judge their behavior. So if the kid says, I really don't like you, I don't call that behavior. I would call that expressing their experience in me. And I would say, tell me about it. But if he swears at me or throws something at me, I may well judge the swearing or throwing and say, I'm not for throwing that. I'm very firm on behavior, but I will accept the inner life. Parents try to do that by saying to their kid, I'm not angry with you. I'm angry at what you did.
Mm, mhm.
it's
I've
a
used that line. Sure.
it's a common thing that a parent
Yeah.
says. Sometimes they're lying. They are angry with their kid.
Yeah.
What's the clue? They don't talk to their kid for 2 days. That
Mm.
suggests they're more angry at the kid than what they do. Or they're enraged. That probably also suggests they're angry at their child, not what he does. So if they really mean that, they're going to convey maybe very firm, clear, angry. I'm angry at what you said to me. That's not how in this family we handle our conflicts and our disagreements. Now let's find a way to say that in a way that is respectful to both of us. Something like that. But I would not in any way. In that case, I'm using the behavior. I'm calling it a behavior, the way he expresses his anger. But the fact that he's angry, I'm not angry about that. I'll say, "You're angry with me. Help me understand what's that about."
One thing I was thinking about when I was reading up on and researching P.A.C.E and just I was thinking about like teenagers, my own in particular. I don't totally want to call her out, but I guess I will a little bit. Sometimes she gets very, I'm not good at, or I can't do this. And I wondered if acceptance, can be applied in that way, where my first instinct when she says something like that is, you don't say that. You are good at it. You've got to think positive and taking her experiences that she feels like she is not good at whatever it is
Right.
would acceptance be more, I'm really sorry you're feeling like that right now, instead of the, that's not true. That's not true. Just keep working.
Right. Right.
Things will turn around. Because I guess what I'm understanding is that is kind of dismissing how she is feeling
Right.
internally, even though it's not true. That's
Right.
kind of how I took acceptance too,
Yeah.
just for
Yeah.
an
It is.
everyday application.
This episode is brought to you by Shopify. Do you have a point of sale system you can trust, or is it a real POS? You need Shopify for retail. From accepting payments to managing inventory, Shopify POS has everything you need to sell in person. Go to shopify.com/system, all lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. That's shopify.com/system.
I mean, that's what I mean by it. When a child says, "I'm a bad kid, I'm no good," da 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 da, and I say, "Oh, of course you're a good kid." Don't say that. I'm rejecting his experience of himself.
Hmm.
And basically, I'm saying, I won't listen to that. I disagree with you about your experience of yourself. Now, that's really not respecting his experience of himself. If somebody says, "I'm angry," and you say, "Oh, you're not angry."
Mm,
I mean, really, does that help in any way? It
no.
dismisses the child's experience. If the kid says, "I'm no good," and I say, "Of course you're good," that dismisses the experience and it shuts down. And if anything, it reduces the child's confidence, number one, that I will speak honestly with him about my experience. He will probably think I'm lying because I have to say that because I'm his parent. And or he will say, I'm not interested in his truth. I'm telling him what he should feel and think.
Hmm.
Many teenagers do not talk with their parents that much. He never tells me anything because often we evaluate what they think and feel. You shouldn't feel that. You shouldn't think that.
Right. Just think positive. It's good. Things are good.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, right.
It's
Nobody at school
going
likes me.
Yeah.
Of course somebody likes you. Remember John stopped by the
Right.
other day?
Right.
Yeah, of
Or
course.
whatever, like the subject is in school. I'm no good at this subject, or a sport, something
And then
like
he
that.
doesn't open up about it. Then he keeps it to himself because mom or dad will just ignore me. They'll disagree with me. They won't understand. They'll try to talk me out of
Mm.
it. They won't. So then if I'm feeling sad about it or worried about it, there's no way I'll express my sadness or worry because my parent isn't interested in that. They try to talk me out of it.
Isn't that, yeah.
So I accept just about anything the child says. He says, "I'm a bad, rotten, no good kid." I would say, in accepting his experience, I'd be saying, "Oh my gosh, that must be really hard for you
Yeah.
if you think you're a bad, rotten, no good kid." my goodness, that would make you sort of, I don't know, get kind of discouraged
Yeah.
and sort of wears you out. And you sort of, does that, I don't know, I think it might just sort of take away your confidence in the future about being able to do something well, does it? Then I'll be curious about his experience of himself. But I won't say it's wrong. I'll just say that must be hard. That's empathy. If you think that, that's empathy. How long have you thought that? Are there times you don't think that? When did you start thinking that? Be very curious and then go back to the empathy, always accepting his experience. At the end of the day, I want the kid to say, oh, it's not that bad.
Right.
And he probably will. If I say it's not that bad, he say, yes, it is. But I'll just stay with him in the experience. And eventually he says, oh, it's not that bad.
Yeah, especially teenagers. That's an interesting way to think about it because I often think I'm trying to encourage my kids who might be feeling down about something, but instead maybe it's better to sit with them in that a little bit.
Yes, so they're
Yeah.
not alone in
No, it
it
makes sense.
because we often think reassurance is what a child needs. And often they don't need reassurance, they need empathy.
Well, so playfulness, acceptance, the C of PACE is curiosity.
Yeah.
So, why is curiosity important and what exactly does that look like?
It's, hey, what's that about? Any
Mhm.
idea what you were thinking then or what were you feeling? Or that seems hard for you. It makes it hard. I'm interested in your experience. Again, I'm very curious and I'm not judging it. I'm just curious about, have you felt that way long? Are there times you don't feel that way? What makes it come back? When you feel that way, how do you handle a feeling like that? I think it'd be kind of hard. So the curiosity is a non-judgmental way of going into the child's inner life and discovering their experience of themselves. It's
Mhm.
not judging it at all. It's just trying to find out what it is. In fact, in my work with parents, parent will say, he does this, he's been stealing or he's been fighting or, when dad's home late for dinner, he always acts up at the dinner table. What should I do? Now they're looking for a magic consequence. This magic consequence will always work and then I'll stop doing it. No, you're not likely to. So what do I do when a parent says that to me? I say, oh, well, I can see why you're concerned about that. If every time dad's not home for dinner, he acts up at the dinner table. Yeah. How come he's doing that?
Mm.
I don't know. I just wanted to stop. Well, I think if we want to help it to stop, it'd be good to know why he's doing it. I don't care why. Well, I can't give you a recommendation about what to do about it because I don't know why he's doing it. The recommendation is dependent upon the reason. Now, when at the end of the day, when he's fighting with a friend and we're criticizing him, we may discover he's fighting with a friend because he saw his friend be a bully to somebody and he called his friend on it and his friend swore at him and walked away. And so he's angry with his friend. No, we don't know that. Now, if we knew that, would we be angry with him for being angry with his friend? We might be proud of him for standing up to his friend who is bullying another child. So we got to know why the behavior is happening before we know what to do about it. So the curiosity gets us there, but it can't be it can't be judgmental. It can't be, why'd you do that? Because that means we already made up our mind that it's bad. Instead,
Right. It technically is curiosity when you say, "Why did you do that?" But that's not gonna get you very far.
and it's really not curiosity. We want the kid to tell us what we want to hear. That
Yeah,
he shouldn't have done it.
exactly.
He wasn't following the rules, and he was being selfish or something like that. But if we say, "Hey, I wonder why you did that," just open to what's that about. That often the kids will say, "I don't know." It's interesting. The troubled kids. There's research on troubled kids. They often don't know why they do things. They
Mm.
don't know what's going on inside their inner life, what they think, what they feel, they want. They often don't know what it is. It's not clear. They don't have words for their inner life. And when we say to them, use your words, they often don't have words to use. They don't know how to talk about their inner life.
Mm.
So by being curious, I'm helping them to learn how to give expression, to have words to use so they don't hit and fight, swear and stuff.
So guidance essentially is what the curiosity provides. Like you're just kind of digging in a little bit to force them to think about the why.
Yeah, the first step is getting them to be in the same process of what's this about, making
Yeah.
sense of it. And then at the end of the day, there may be some guidance involved, there may be no guidance needed. The kid gets an insight now, and the kid says, "Boy, that was dumb.
Hmm.
Why didn't I do this instead?" I said, "Hey, good idea." And, I'm not going to tell the kid what I want him to think and feel, because if he can come up with it on his own, it's much more likely to be genuine and effective.
The last part of PACE is the E, that's empathy. And empathy has come up so many times in just the different topics that we have taken on here on Raising Me on the podcast. In this particular instance, what is empathy? How would we show it? Why is it so important when building these relationships with our kids?
Well, empathy is conveying what you're feeling, your inner experience, the emotional, especially the emotional side of it. I'm with you in it, and I can understand how hard it must be if you're feeling nobody likes you, for example. And it's so important because it helps the child to feel I'm understood. Somebody gets it. Then it helps them feel I'm not being judged. I'm not alone. And this person will be with me to find my way out of it. So empathy, it doesn't make it go away, doesn't minimize it, doesn't sugarcoat it. It is just being with the child in their experience and conveying you're not alone in this experience. And I'm with you. And then often that will give the child confidence that they can address it and motivation to address it because they're not alone with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's huge. What would your advice be to parents listening to this podcast to just some practical strategies for implementing PACE in our everyday lives?
Well, know what it is, know why it's so important and valuable, understand what it means. It means I'm giving priority to our relationship, and that I'm not, our engagement here is not focused only on your behavior, if that at all. It's focused on the whole context of the meaning that your behavior represents, on your experience in the present about, what you feel about yourself and what you think, and that. And for a parent, if I could hold on to that, I'm holding the whole child in my mind, not just their behavior. And then they feel safer. If they feel they're understood, they often feel safer. The clearest example, and I think many parents, if you have a toddler at home and they're having their little hissy fit, they're screaming and yelling and fussing,
Mm-hmm.
they want something. You say, "Oh, can't have it now, kid." And they're yelling and fussing. And then you say, "You really want that, don't you? It must be hard that you can't have it. Another day, but not now." And then they often calm right down as soon as they know you understand and you're not angry with them for wanting it. Toddlers, their hissy fits, we often make it worse by getting angry with them or sitting them in a chair or something, when in fact they're just communicating their anger about something. Great. And I'm saying, "You can't have it. That must be hard. You want to cuddle?" And they often just let it go.
Yeah.
So anyway, I'm using that as an example because it's so obvious with toddlers. It really is. But for parents, it does stop you from reacting and saying, "I got to understand. I got to get a connection here." We stress in the work that I'm doing and folks that I train, we got to connect with kids before we correct them. When we correct them, it's in the context of a connection. In that context, the kid is much more likely to accept our authority because of the relationship. The relationship is fundamental to our influence on a child. So if I can help a parent to see that, I'm helping a parent really to get to know the child and actually to get to know themselves better. When we talk about PACE for the child, we also say, and you got to have PACE for yourself.
And tell us about that. Let's dig into that a little bit. What does that mean?
That means, well, what does PACE mean? PACE, playfulness toward myself. That means I could be a bit light, give myself a break, give me some slack when I mess up. Don't be really hard on myself. Yeah. Acceptance is accepting my experience. I accept this kid. This is my kid. Damn it. I'm not particularly happy about that. I'm not going to tell my kid that. That would be behavior. I'm not going to accept verbally abusing my child. But if inside I feel, boy, sometimes I wish I weren't a parent, and I can accept that, generally the feeling goes away. And I just chuckle a little bit and say, yeah, that's part of being a parent. So I accept that. I accept myself. I'm not some saint or robot. I'm a human being. I have my own thoughts and feelings and challenges and weak points. I'm curious about myself. I yelled at my kid, and I'm thinking, why did I do that? Instead of just blaming the kid, I'm saying, yeah, I didn't want him to do that, but that was a lot of anger. The way that my tone of voice, I'm wondering why I yelled at my kid. I'm wondering why I want to be left alone now. So I'm getting to know myself more because I'm curious, and I'm not judging myself. I'm not ashamed of who I am. I'm accepting myself, getting to know who I am, being curious about it. And then I have empathy for myself. This is hard work. I'm doing the best I can. Sometimes I just want to pull my hair out, and sometimes I want to be left alone, and that's okay.
That is okay. Absolutely. I love that idea of just a little pace for ourselves. If there was one piece of advice, one takeaway from you, Dan, today, what would that be?
Do what I say. It would be, I think sometimes we're sold a bill of goods that behavioral management is the key. That all we do is manage behavior, and then the child will grow up all fancy, nice, socialized. And it's the cart before the horse, from my point of view. It's the behavior will take care of itself, or can be addressed in the context of a good relationship. So I want my focus to be on how can I have a relationship with my child that includes respect for each other, enjoyment of each other, delight in each other, interest in each other, and a relationship where I, as a parent, have authority that my child doesn't have. And I do expect my child to accept my authority. I won't get angry when he doesn't, but I'll wonder about, hey, you give me a hard time. Why? What's that about? And I'll say, how can I make it easier? Because you're not going to do it. Sometimes people think when you're relating with P.A.C.E, you're permissive. I can be very firm and clear and relate with P.A.C.E. We have a myth that discipline involves anger. Why? Why do you have to be angry to teach or to influence a child or to get them to do what you want them to do? Anger isn't necessary. If that's all we got, we're in trouble.
Oh, well, yeah. And I think that could be another episode entirely, going down the anger tunnel, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Dr. Dan Hughes, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. I want to let our listeners know that we will have more information on P.A.C.E and resources on our website. That is wgme.com/raisingme. Certainly appreciate your time, Dan. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you. I enjoyed it.
Keeping P.A.C.E top of mind is so good for so many relationships and so many reasons. One of the biggest takeaways for me really is about accepting of feelings and not telling the kids how they should feel, which sounds really stupid to even say that out loud. But, I realize I do it more than I'd like to admit. And it is what we're doing when we say, oh, stop, don't say that. That's not true. Whether it's so-and-so doesn't like me, or I'm no good at soccer, or I'm going to fail this class, whatever it is, even when you know what they're saying isn't right. So I've really tried to take a deep breath and say something like, I'm really sorry that you're feeling like that right now. And then just kind of try to get more curious about why they're feeling that way. And speaking of curiosity, great advice from Dr. Hughes when it comes to ourselves, stopping and reflecting, like, why am I feeling or reacting like this right now? And trying to come to an understanding and really give ourselves some empathy. This is hard stuff. And then play. I mean, that's just a good reminder all around. It is okay to breathe and have a lighthearted moment when emotions are starting to run high. It's easier said than done, like so many things we talk about. We're all learning here too, but so much of it is just keeping it top of mind and having some awareness and maybe incorporating it a little bit at a time. Thank you so much for listening to Raising Me. I'm Adrienne Stein. This episode is edited by Megan Littlefield and produced with Nate Eldridge. Please take a moment to follow Raising Me wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, consider a positive rating and review too, because those reviews help others find this message. Wherever you are, I hope you learn something new and get to take a little time for you.